we really needed to know what's going on. We needed to know. And it's very hard to know, where part of the whole deal is to confuse the weak party. This is a zero-sum game, has been a zero-sum game for a long time. And if it goes on as a zero-sum game, it will go on with the same consequences, which is what you have so eloquently described today, Ambassador Mansour. We need to disrupt this uneven balance of power at every level that we need. At every level that we need. There is a consensus about the two-state solution, about the policy. Everybody in the world agrees about the policy by now. When we started, it wasn't like that. But the quartet, which is the US, Europe, Russia, and the United Nations, is the whole world. That is the policy. How come this policy does not translate into implementation? This is a burning question for us. What is it? What's wrong? Everybody says, oh, Israel wants the two-state solution, and the Palestinians and the Arabs. What is going on? There are answers to this, and we should seek the answers, and we should remedy the answers. And by the way, we can remedy the answers in so many ways, not in just one way, in so many ways. Now, the Israelis and the Palestinians agree on the conflict, but their politics do not support a resolution on the basis of two-state solution. That is a fact. Neither the politics of Palestine, as we see it, leads clearly to a two-state solution, because what we're seeing is continued weakening of the Palestinians at all kinds of levels. And we can discuss that later if there are any questions and answers. The Israelis have a very nice formula going on. They're negotiating with the Palestinians as they are taking more of the land. And when the Palestinians complain, we say, well, you refuse to negotiate. It is very convenient. Now, I have learned, and we have learned, that it is a sin, a political sin, close to malpractice, to generalize about the Palestinians and to generalize about the Israelis. The Israelis are many, multitude. There are differences in their approach and their understanding and their way out of this crisis, as there are amongst the Palestinians. We have to figure out who's who, and we have to connect the people who want a solution and disconnect ourselves and weaken those who do not. That is part of the struggle. What are the obstacles to the peace that we talk about? Fundamental to the obstacles is this business of disconnect between the dishonesty between the policy of two states and the politics of the two states. It's within and without. There is a lot of mistrust between the two parties that is well justified. The gap, however, is not just between the leadership, the Palestinian Israeli leadership, it is within each camp. And also, the opposition is within each camp. But the issues that separate the people are substantive and real. There are actual issues. There are people in Israel who want the land and don't want the Palestinian people in it. And there are people in Palestine who talk about accepting a two-state solution while they're really still thinking of Ramli and Haifa, etc., etc. You cannot have it both ways on both sides. You have to be honest in the discourse with each other in order to build that system. There is no military solution. So the solution has to be something else. Partly negotiations, and none of us is blind to the fact that we've had 20 years of negotiations with no progress. In fact, with deep progress, weakening of the positions of the Palestinians with each cycle of negotiations. But there are other things to do. And part of it I want to reflect again on what Imad said. You absolutely have to improve things on the ground for the Palestinians. You must find ways, and that does not mean what they do themselves on the ground. That is important. steadfastness is essential. But we cannot ask these people to go on sacrificing and getting killed while nobody else is doing some heavy lifting for them to actually be able to stay and to actually help them, to help their hospitals, to help their schools, to help their governance, all of that. That has to be part of the responsibility of the international community to move things forward. This discrepancy of power between the Palestinians and the Israelis cannot be bridged by anyone if it continues. You have to improve the level of the institutions of the Palestinians, the quality of their education, the quality of their lives, their competitive ability, even to negotiate. There is nothing that will solve all the complicated issues of the Middle East if the Palestinian issue is not dealt with. It has to be dealt with. You cannot forget about Palestine. You can postpone the interests of today in moving on, but it has to be a strategic goal because it is a crucible of all the conflicts in the world. Religions, race, brown, black, white, haves, have-nots, developed, quote-unquote, and not so developed. So many things that touch the core of human beings in the region are impacted by Palestine. It needs to be resolved. In fact, it is probably the embodiment of the committee's purpose, your committee's purpose. The inalienable rights of the Palestinians cannot be realized without a state of Palestine. It's the ultimate realization of the justice to Palestine, if you will, and peace. You see, what replaces the two-state solution is nothing that could end this conflict. The only conflict-ending solution is the two-state solution. It gives everybody his own little house, her own little house, where you can stay. Doesn't give you everything. Doesn't give you your neighbor's house, but gives you something. All other solutions are non-solutions. They keep the conflict going under other terms, with other descriptions. And that is why it has to be kept going, even though the negotiations seem to be unhelpful these days. We need to keep that in mind. Something positive has happened recently in the world, which is the European involvement. I think it is a little bit of a reaction to the lack of progress under American guidance. Eventually they took a real step, a legal and practical step, which is to impose restrictions on the products of the settlements. That is important. It's the first time, and it has teeth. And it is causing problems for the Israelis who are still wanting to continue with the absence of pursuit of the two-state solution. We say, here I'm a Palestinian American. I say, we are not against Israel, we are against the occupation. This simply means we are for a two-state solution, and we mean it. We mean it. And to get that, we need the support of so many people in Israel who agree with us. Anti-Semitism does not help us, does not help anybody, and it's been used. Now there is an opportunity for real action to demand from the leadership of the Palestinians and the Israelis to be more accountable. You get money from us, you get support from us, and this applies to everybody. Well, and you want us. So let's demand things of you. We need to support their ability to stay. We need to have better governments for them, and we need to insist on that. We need to have better institutions, and we need to provide the wherewithal for that and insist on providing it. And we need to de-incentivize Israel. Just simply de-incentivize Israel. It's not, okay, so you have your own state, but you cannot have other people's own. And there are penalties. That is why the European movement is significant. Settlement expansion, I haven't mentioned anything. Let me just say, nothing is more detrimental to peace than settlement expansion and home demolition, period. And we know that the United States has tried and failed, but that doesn't mean that this cannot be, a need that needs to be fulfilled in Israel. Everybody has to use whatever there is within Israel, the ability to fight settlement expansion. The present negotiations are difficult and may not yield much, but every effort has to be done to to preserve the process while we improve the institution and state building program on the ground. Thank you very much.